Personally, I think it all works. I think robo-affirming works. I think law of attraction, law of assumption works. I think 369 method works. I don't even know what that is, but I've heard of it. I think that works. I think what else is out there? I think it all works. I think that belief can absolutely also still carry you all the way, like to the end of your, there's no end, but to the finish line. But I strongly believe that nervous system regulation and emotional regulation greatly impacts the steadiness of that journey, the speed of that journey, and the overall maintainability of what you receive when your manifestations land. And I believe that's why the people in these communities, the robo affirming and the LOA communities, why there's so much variation in those that are like, no, this works and I swear by it and it works for some people, and for others, it's just like, hey, yo. And I think it's very easy for people to just dismiss people like, oh, you just don't believe, or you're just not grateful enough. Oh, you have limiting beliefs. That was like something I kept falling into because I was like, bro, I really dead ass believe in XYZ. I dead ass believe that my money's gonna come by this time or whatever. Fully. In my subconscious, my whole heart and soul, every part of me believes XYZ is going to take place. And then it wouldn't take place. And then it would lead me into a spiral of there must be something else in there. There must be another, let me use some EFT tapping, there must be another limiting belief. There must be something. And it's like, no. No, you person A and person B can both sit here and robo affirm, or both, use the law of assumption to just assume everything's gonna work out. But person A and person B have different nervous systems and different traumas stored in their bodies and different patterns and habits and experiences. So if person A was born in an environment and in a life where they just have a more regulated system, they're more emotionally regulated, they're more in tune with their nervous system, whatever, then them just assuming everything works out or robo affirming might be a little bit easier for them to stay calm and receive and follow their intuition and things work out. Whereas person B can robo affirm or use law of assumption or whatever, but subtly they still have a subtle undercurrent of stress. Sometimes people don't realize how much stress they're in. I didn't even realize I had anxiety until I had a therapist clock me. I was like, I don't qualify for anxiety. I don't have panic attacks. But she's like, anxiety is more than just panic attacks. But you get what I'm saying? I believe our nervous systems are always broadcasting a signal and always putting out a vibe, a vibration. And I feel like it always is going to loop back around what feels comfortable, familiar, and safe. And I believe that's why safety is such a big thing, and all that matters so much. And so it's like, yes, belief can get you from point A to point B, but if you are still broadcasting a signal of, stuff doesn't work out for me, or, negative experiences and interactions, or lack of worthiness and disrespect or whatever, you're still putting out that signal, then that's the route you end up taking to get here. Like, you can go this way where everything works out, it is smooth and you're at peace and you get to do fun things or whatever and still get here, or you can get here through the route of stress and strife. But you'll still get there. Belief will, like I said, belief will still get you there. But you're still putting out a vibe of what's normal to you, and what your nervous system really prioritizes is what feels safe. What feels safe is what is familiar and predictable. If you're used to being in relationships where you're arguing and you're having problems and you're being disrespected or whatever, that's just gonna keep getting looped back around until you address it. Even though you want better, like you consciously, like you want better, but you keep looping around the same crap because this is what your nervous system is used to. This is what feels familiar. And I believe that's why people can manifest it all and then still lose it all, because they lack that maintainability of that nervous system regulation. Now, this is not a preach on you need to do the inner work. Everybody needs to do the inner work. Bitch, I ain't no overachiever. I wanted stuff to just work out for me just believing and me just affirming and stuff. And I just wasn't seeing results. And then I kept spiraling and gaslighting myself like, maybe I don't believe, and it's like, no, I did believe. It came to a point where I was like, I'm done looking for stuff that's not there, and focused on regulating my nervous system and blah, blah, blah. But like, look at examples like people in cults, people in abusive relationships, where it's so hard for them to acclimate to a better way of living, not because they're stupid, not because they were dumb for getting in that cult. None of that. These were just vulnerable people. They're just doing their best in life. This is being in this cult and being in these types of relationships is what they are used to. And even if what you want is better and healthier, if it feels big and it's too different, your nervous system still sees it as a threat. And I'm not saying that the only reason that people are getting cults and abusive relationships and staying in it and stuff is just a nervous system. There's a lot to unpack there, you know. I'm not saying all of that. But I'm just giving you those extreme examples to show you, like, you see it all the time in day-to-day life. That's why hustling is so hard for us to break that programming, because my nervous system was very used to just dragging me through the mud and just gritting, buckling down and getting what I want. And it was so hard it gets hard sometimes to have to sit myself down and be like, hey, yo, bro, we don't live like that anymore. We don't need to do that to feel safe. More than anything, you just want to feel safe. You just want to feel good. Like, we're good. Bills are paid. And so now I've been able to teach my body how to feel safe and regulated without buckling down and doing all that. The more you do that, the more you show up for yourself, the more normal it gets. So this type of life is my new normal. Things just working out for me and whoop whoop whatever is my new normal. Hustling and gritting and all of that old way of living does feel taboo to me now. Bitch, I used to be stressed as hell. Anxious as hell, emotional as hell, you know? And so if you really take that into perspective, if you're robo affirming right now, or you're doing whatever law of whatever and it's working for you, bitch, you do that. Like I said, you ain't gotta be an overachiever. But if you are still struggling with stress or anxiety, or stuff ain't working out or whatever, maybe consider sitting back and doing the inner work, you know, emotionally regulating yourself. And I mean, it's changed my life. And bitch, if I can do it,